What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me for one of the very first posts of my Patreon page. Rock the Dragon, a Dragon Ball Super podcast now has a Patreon. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for becoming a patron. This is hopefully the first of many videos, many projects and podcasts and such that will be exclusive to Patreon members and to my patrons. So I want to thank you guys for being so generous as to contribute just a small amount of money each month to help me pay some bills and things while I give you guys some hopefully cool content. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump on into it now. At some point earlier this year, of course, I actually shared the footage over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/rockthedragonpodcast, that there was an announcement of a new Dragon Ball Z video game being released. At the time, all we had was a bunch of sort of fancy cutscenes and a sort of a tentative title for a project called Dragon Ball Project Z. Okay, I shared it because I was super curious wondering what the hell it is. Even though those cinematics look very good, I think everyone's initial reaction here was, this is stuff we've all seen before, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone was thinking the exact same thing. It's like, well, it looks good, but those are just cutscenes. And not only are those just cutscenes, but we've seen the Frieza saga. We've seen the Vegeta saga. We've seen Raditz coming to Earth. What is there to get excited about this game? Now, recently at E3, they announced that in early 2020, the official title of this game will be Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which I think we can all admit is not the most creative title they possibly could have come up with. But in their defense, there's so many Dragon Ball games now, right? I feel like they probably ran out of shit to call it. It's like, what else can we call it now? What name have we not used so far? So I guess they just decided with Kakarot. And I'm assuming that since they were calling it Dragon Ball Project Z for so long, that they hadn't even decided what the name of it was going to be. So they decided to go with Kakarot. So, okay, fair enough. Why not? What does that mean for the actual game itself? Well, we don't know. I mean, the titles rarely mean anything, I think, for these video games. They never really, look at Dragon Ball Fighters. It's Dragon Ball Fighters, but instead of an S at the end of Fighters, it's the letter Z. It's like it doesn't even really mean anything. They just need names at this point. But with a name like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, it will make you wonder, well, is this game going to focus on Kakarot? Is this going to be some sort of a new story that we haven't seen that sort of explores the Saiyan side of Goku? Is it going to be a new story that takes place in an alternate timeline where he never left the planet Vegeta? No, of course not. It's going to be probably the same shit that we've seen a million times storyline wise, but the question is for me, is it going to be better than it was before? Okay, so they released the first 10 minutes or so of gameplay footage. I'm going to play that and I'm just going to kind of go through and give you my thoughts on it. I will say this, I am really excited for this game, and here's why. Because everyone's main complaints so far have been, how many times are we going to play the exact same sagas over and over again, and that this game sort of looks like Xenoverse and such forth. And trust me, I'm with you. I completely understand your concerns there. But for me personally, I don't own Xenoverse, any of them. And I honestly have not played a Dragon Ball Z game, period. With the exception of Dragon Ball Fighters in maybe a decade or so, right? So all those games that came out, and I think the last Dragon Ball Z game that I even bought or played before Fighters was Budokai 2 or something like that. And I played at least one of the Tenkaichi Budokais maybe once upon a time, but I just lost interest in these Dragon Ball Fighter games because they just, I don't know, it was just, I don't think the technology was where it needed to be in order for these games to be as great as I would have wanted them to be. So I just decided I was just going to sit back and just wait until they came up with a game that was worth it. And for me, on the fighting side, Dragon Ball Fighters did that. Now I'm looking for a game that's going to handle the action adventure, maybe RPG side of things itself. And for a lot of people, that was Xenoverse, but I didn't really play Xenoverse, so I can't really speak to that, right? I do see some similarities there. but I also see a lot of cool looking shit here. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it, and we'll just talk about it over the next 10 minutes. Okay, here we go. So, I mean, right away, I'm pretty impressed, okay? Because everything that we've sort of learned about this game, and this gameplay sort of reiterates that fact, is that this is going to be an open world game, okay? From what I understand about Xenoverse, those were kind of open world too, but once again, I can't really speak to Xenoverse. But just looking at this shot of Goku just kind of being able to just go wherever he wants and just fly wherever he wants, looks pretty awesome, guys. I mean, look at the background here. I'm looking at the scenery. I'm looking at all these mountains. I'm looking at Goku as he flies through the sky. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've dreamt about a game like this. I've always kind of wanted my Dragon Ball game would have been more action adventure versus, you know, more so than the RPG style. But I think what I've learned over time is that the Dragon Ball world is one of those worlds that probably does work best in more of an RPG style, just because there's so many different techniques and transformations and things like that, and it kind of makes sense that you would be able to sort of choose which techniques you want to use and stuff like that. So I don't mind that. Not to mention that the world is so massive, right? Hell, we all remember Dragon Ball Sagas, right? Remember that game? Dragon Ball Z Sagas? Went back on PS2, I think they attempted to do an action adventure Dragon Ball game, and I bought that game and I beat it like the same day, and then I returned it. I mean, it was just a waste. So compare that to this. This looks awesome. Okay, so yeah, we just had like a little fight with a robot. Obviously there's going to be some little miniature battles too, right? It can't play out exactly like the storyline in the anime, because if that's the case, you'd only fight one villain per season, right? In a video game can't work that way. You have to give the characters more stuff to do. So just Goku and Piccolo flying through these waterfalls, I mean, it looks gorgeous. And just collecting little icons. I mean, we don't know exactly what those things do, but it's just a pretty good indication that there will be all sorts of things to do in this world instead of just fighting, right? Here's another example of that with Goku going to fish, right? Now, this is weird, okay? Goku just pulled out his tail, reattached it, and he's fishing with his tail. Okay, look, once again, not everything can be super accurate to the anime. I mean, shit, people are bitching about the wrong stuff. We all know that Goku did not have a tail anymore by this point in Dragon Ball Z, okay? But for the sake of fun gameplay and tying it in, they probably said, hey, let's let him go fishing. Okay, well, what's he going to use to fish? Well, normally in anime, Goku would have jumped in that water, swam down and grabbed that fish, right? Or he would have knocked it over the head, or he would have hit it with a ki blast. But, you know, it's probably enough work for them just to get the flight mechanics working right in this game. So they probably didn't want to introduce swimming on top of that. Okay, so they said, hey, let him just stick his tail in the water. Why not? Something's kind of funny, whatever. You know, like I'm not as concerned about the continuity to the anime here, because everyone's complaining that it's the exact same shit we've seen before, but then they're also complaining that this stuff is kind of different, right? Like the fact that during this whole Raditz era, Goku wasn't really flying around like this. He was mostly using Nimbus, right? But who knows? Maybe there'll be a stage where you can use Nimbus, but I don't have a problem with this. I think it's awesome. I think it's cool how he can just kind of coast through the sky like that. You know, he's just kind of coasting, but then if you want to, you can kick it up a notch and you can do that. You can power up a little bit and charge through at a great speed, and it just looks great. I mean, games like this in the past that have attempted this kind of free roam flight scenario thing have not turned out very well. I mean, it's only been in recent years that I think open world video games have gotten really good. Okay? And when I say open world, I mean, you know, the biggest thing that comes to mind is Grand Theft Auto. But even more related to this genre would be like the Batman games, right? Like Arkham Knight was pretty much open world. You can pretty much go wherever you want. We've got the new Spider-Man game out now. You can pretty much go wherever you want. So they've gotten better at this. Now is the perfect time to try to make a game like this. I remember the old Iron Man video game, the old Superman video games, where all I wanted to be able to do is just fly around the entire freaking world. And I couldn't do it. And I remember the Superman game had a pretty decent flight mechanic, but the rest of it was pretty whack. Okay. So far, I'm super impressed with this. Obviously, the entire point of this section of the storyline is to go and rescue Gohan from Raditz. Okay. Which is obviously a storyline we're all very familiar with. But I don't know if we've seen it from this perspective, have we? I mean, I'm legitimately asking because I don't know. Because once again, I didn't play all the other Dragon Ball games in between. Okay? So this little scene seems to be playing out a lot like most RPGs play out. Most of these Dragon Ball games kind of have these little sequences where the words are on the screen and you push the button. I mean, typical RPG style. Here's where the question comes in at is the fighting, right? So, fighting wise, this does look a lot like Xenoverse. This does look a lot like those old Tenkaichi Budokai games. It even it's kind of like Jump Force too. And that game came out and nobody cared. Hopefully that doesn't happen with this. Now there's a lot of sort of repetitive looking fighting here. I'm hoping that this isn't a situation where all you do is just spam, attack. And this happens, right? I want a little bit of variety here. Obviously, we can see on the left side of the screen, we have controls that just kind of remain up there to just kind of let you know what buttons you need to press and how to press and what what needs to be pressed. And of course, and obviously there'll be moves like this where you input a certain, you'll put in a certain input and you'll do some kind of special move. I mean, this is all pretty standard Dragon Ball stuff so far. But with that being said, I'm still impressed by it. I'm still impressed. Now, obviously, once again, not everything here is playing out exactly the way the anime did. I'm not worried about that. If this played out the way the anime did, Piccolo will be heavily involved in this fight. Okay, we know Piccolo is there, but how would that work in a game mechanic? In a way that wouldn't cause too many issues by having Piccolo be involved in the fight too. So maybe he'll jump in later at some point, because we all know how this fight ends in the anime. Is it going to end that way in the game? I guess we kind of have to wait and see. And obviously they're being a little bit generous here with the powers, right? Because Goku couldn't really do all this at this point in Dragon Ball Z. He's glowing and all this shit. He wasn't really flying like that, but we have to make a game that's fun, right? And obviously, if this game makes its way all the way through the end of Z, which I'm hoping it does, I don't think it's going to go through Super. I mean, I just don't see that happening. But I think it'll at least go all the way through Z. And obviously, we'll watch Goku go Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 3 and get upgraded and everything like that, right? Based on what I'm seeing here, this fight against Raditz doesn't seem to be too difficult. But this is just a demo. Okay, we also have to remember that. Charge up, you get points, combos. Yeah, I mean, Raditz didn't do all this shit. But it's a video game. You have to like embellish on it to make it fun, right? And I'm digging this. I'm digging the mid-air combat. Raditz is obviously stunned, and that's going to open him up for some kind of sweet combo attack. The auras look good. Yeah, so once again in the demo, I mean, I think they have to tweak Raditz. I think he needs to be fighting back more. And this seems to be kind of simple. It's just kind of a side dash to the side and kind of dodge the attacks. This is not, this is not the most, impressive part, but I think there's time to fix this kind of stuff. That was cool, but this is not bad for a first gameplay sort of demo. My question is this the freaking action adventure RPG Dragon Ball game that I've been waiting on my entire life? I'm really hoping so. And another question would be is, are you going to play with Goku during the entire game? Because if it follows the Dragon Ball storylines, we know that there are certain points in time where Goku is incapacitated, right? I mean, right after this fight, in the anime, he dies in this fight. Remember? Okay, so are we going to follow him on Snake Way? Is he going to be on King Kai's planet? Are we going to train with him? Or are we going to switch over to the other characters like Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, all the people that are left on Earth to fight Nappa and Vegeta when they first arrive? Or will they just kind of show all of that through cutscenes and just kind of skip ahead to Goku being back on Earth? I'm hoping that they switch over to some of the other characters because, I mean, why not, right? That would just be fun. Meanwhile, Raditz is releasing this freaking massive attack that it's pretty impressive. So there it is. So this video was more or less just, not more or less, it's pretty much just, going to Raditz, getting that fight, but we get to see a lot of different things in here. We get to see flight mechanics, we get to see in the environment, we get to see, get a good idea of how there's obviously going to be some sort of reward system with you collecting the little floating Z's and the little Dragon Balls in the air. Just being able to do things that are pretty cool, like flying through the waterfalls and stuff like that on your way to the boss fights. There will be little small miniature games, miniature adventures, miniature battles and stuff like that. And I think that that's probably a really good way to kind of, that's a good direction to put this game into. There's still a lot left to see, a lot left to figure out. I mean, if you watch the actual trailer for the game, we can see Goku fighting Frieza on Namek. I mean, I'm just imagining flying around a Namek that's about to explode as Super Saiyan Goku fighting Frieza. I mean, it just sounds like, I don't know about y'all, but that that sounds fucking awesome to me. Anyway, guys, so that about does it. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts on this gameplay footage. Look, I'm very excited about this game, namely because I did not play basically any of the other ones. So I think this is going to be the one that I'm going to pick up to try to get back into it, and hopefully I will not regret it. So I don't know, what you think about that? Send me a message or something like that. Let me know your thoughts about it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a Patreon exclusive Rock the Dragon, a Dragon Ball Super podcast. I see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for being a patron, and keep on rocking the dragon.